and people are not able to harvest as expected, thus reducing their capacity to purchase food and sustain their daily needs.
Hindi baha, mahirap ang buhay talaga. Pero lalo kaming nahihirapan pagka baha. Yung mga bata nagkakasakit. Nakukuha sa baha, yung diarrhea, yung lagnat, trangkaso, gano'n. Sa balat. Minsan, hihirapan kami kumuha ng gamot, lalo na pagka walang pambili. Minsan may pambili ka na, malayo pa bibilhin mo. Talaga.
The other forms of livelihoods, such as small-scale business and public transportations, are similarly impacted and do not provide enough resources to ensure daily needs. In the event of floods, the people are starving.
Bilang naman yan yung mga kalamidad ang pinakitunguhan natin, kundi pati yan ba, krisis. Kasi mahirap ka na nga eh. Pag mahirap ka na, tatamaan ka pa ng disaster, doble na yon. Ang hirap bumangon, biro mo, ang kita mo, halimbawa, ngayon, halimbawa, kumikita ka 100 sa isang araw, sabihin mo na, pinakamataas na yon. O, pag tinamaan ka pa ng kalamidad, ay, napakahirap na.
Another concern when the area is hit by flooding is the lack of infrastructures linking the villages to the rest of the municipality. There is no asphalted road or even bridge for fast rescue to come from the town proper in case of emergency.
Walang tulay na dumudugtong sa area na to. So dahil kung walang dumudugtong na tulay, ibig sabihin, mas less ang services na kukuha nila. Halimbawa, kukuha ng basura, yung sa health, yung sa mga iba pang serbisyo. Kumbaga kung may mga may bibigay ang gobyerno, kumbaga ang priority, yung nandun sa may town proper, mas less yun dito.
The only significant public infrastructures are the Balibago Elementary School and the Sagrada High School, which have to close their doors when flood water level prevent classes to be maintained. The village's calamity fund, worth roughly $500 each for one whole year, are definitely not enough to provide the local inhabitants with enough resources to face the backdrop to their livelihoods. Before any P3DM exercise is done, preparations for defining the geographical scope of the model must be done. Prominent physical parameters must be identified that will be relatively easy to distinguish in the 3D map. One needs to understand the social dynamics in the area, as well as introduce the concept of P3DM to various stakeholders. It is essential that the stakeholders have a buy-in of the activity. Logistics and selections of the venue of the activities then follows. Once the community is already committed to the activity, the base map of the relief model is then prepared. The base map is customized topographic map of the area with the desired scale, contour interval, grid, and features of the area. Participants are given an orientation by facilitators before the actual building of the relief model. Organize tasks into distinct work groups for large relief models or when there are many participants in the activity. A group may prepare carton sheets that correspond to the wooden table and base map. Another group may trace contour layers for those maps with distinct elevation and contour lines, while still another group may be in charge of cutting cardboards and gluing them into the relief model. Reference marks must be made for selected landmarks to ensure that future markings will be georeferenced. If the relief model consists of various layers depicting elevation, crepe paper cut into small pieces of 5 cm by 5 cm is used to consolidate them. Once the relief model is assembled, key informants are gathered around the model and explain the process of depicting mental maps. They are reminded of making use of the legend as reference in choosing colors and symbols. The legend must be displayed and familiar with the participants before the actual depiction of landmarks, boundaries, land cover, etc. are placed on the relief model. If needed, the legend may be revised to include relevant features important to the community. What is important is that there is a common ground of understanding among all key informants and facilitators as to the definitions and symbols to be used in the map. Land cover is initially plotted on the map with the use of yarns and pins, before the application of paint to allow key informants to form a consensus on distribution and extent, while facilitators remind them of the concept of scale to the model. Once all informants have agreed on the land cover and land use features of the map, water-based paint according to the legend can be applied and yarns and pins removed. This is a good time to hold a break from the activities and solicit feedback from participants about the activity.
Ang 3-dimensional mapping na ito ay magbibigay tulong sa aming komunidad. Halimbawa, sa sakuna o panganib. Mapapag-aralan mo sa mapang ito kung aling lugar ang mas madaling mapipisaran ng baha at kung saan mas madaling makakalikas sa mga tao. Malalaman din namin dito kung sino ang unang dapat ilikas at kung saan ang mga bata, buntis at mga kalalakihan. Bihirang-bihira lamang ang ganitong pagkakataon na nagsasama ang buong komunidad at nagkakaisa upang gumawa ng isang proyektong makakatulong sa aming komunidad. Nakakapagod siya pero masaya naman.
Once the paint has dried, the next activity would be to place push pins on the map that depict administrative units, households, and whatever point data that they consider important. The putting of push pins depicting household data is the most crucial in extracting the people's vulnerability in the area. Yarns and pins are then used to depict line data in the map, like evacuation routes, borders, and boundaries. Once all of the information is on the map, a grid is placed on top of it. The grid is a georeference superimposed network of lines that ensure correct positioning. It facilitates the transfer of information from the relief map to a computer-based GIS. A plastic cover may be placed on relief maps that are relatively flat to protect it from pests and the elements. A formal transfer of ownership of the relief model to the community follows after the transposition of information to the 3D map. The relief map should be placed in the care of a group or entity that is committed to protect and maintain it, and more importantly, to make it accessible to the community members who would like to use the information on the map. Representatives of all stakeholders should be present during the handover ceremony, and the visitor's book be launched to record purposes of visits and solicit feedback and comments. The visitor's book can then be valuable in updating information on the 3D map data. CVDRR capitalizes on the momentum created by the participative assessment of disaster risk through the use of 3D maps. It adopts a framework provided by the Asian Disaster Preparedness Center or ADPC and includes the following steps. Participatory planning and management of disaster risk. The disaster management plan considers early warning, orderly evacuation towards safe places, search and rescue operations, and early recovery tasks in the event of heavy damage. Fielding and training of a community disaster risk management organization. The local organization is responsible for promoting disaster preparedness, manage emergency situations, and foster fast recovery. The disaster risk management organization includes leaders from all sectors of the local communities, including women and students. Specific training is conducted.
Yung mga tao, tinatayuan ng organisasyon, yung tatawag namin disaster response machineries para siya yung humarap at tumugon sa kalamidad. Pero may organization ka na, sila na yung pakikitong, hindi na lang actually, pag umuunlad yung organization, nag-uumpisa doon sa disaster lang muna talaga. Pag umuunlad yung organization, pati na yung iba pang problema, lagpas pati iba pang usapin sa disaster, na ipaplano na nila, pikikitunguan na nila. nila. Kaya development siya.
Implementation of the community-based disaster risk reduction plan through a clear distribution of tasks among stakeholders, capacity building, and the mobilization of all available financial and non-financial resources. Participatory monitoring of the disaster management plan and regular evaluation of the evolution of disaster risk in the area. Particular emphasis is given to the local high school through the implication of the Students' Association. A specific disaster risk reduction plan is drawn for and in collaboration with the high school community. As above mentioned, and beyond its sole use as basis for designing the CBDRM plan, the 3D map also serves as a powerful tool for settling land conflicts and enhancing resource management in the study area. For example, it helps in plotting the best location for a projected bridge to connect the coastal villages to the rest of municipality of Basantoy.